Welcome, everyone. Ready to dive deep into something truly fascinating? Today, we're going to explore hidden motives, those often unspoken forces shaping our everyday actions.
It's going to be an intriguing journey, that's for sure. And we've got a range of perspectives to consider, from fields like evolutionary psychology and economics to sociology and even anthropology.
Precisely, getting a multidisciplinary view. And get this, we'll be uncovering how these hidden drivers influence everything from the art we're drawn to why we even bother with education, and yes, even down to how we make healthcare decisions.
It really is remarkable how these diverse fields offer unique insights into this often overlooked aspect of human behavior.
A great starting point for us is The Elephant in the Brain by Kevin Simler and Hanson. It makes a bold claim, suggesting that humans are inherently programmed to act in their self-interest while simultaneously going to great lengths to conceal those very intentions.
It's like we're constantly playing this game of hide and seek, not just with others, but even with ourselves.
So we're all secret agents with concealed agendas. That's a bit unsettling, don't you think? I mean, when you stop and think about it, examples seem to be everywhere. Like, imagine that time you volunteered for a project at work. You might have thought your motives were purely altruistic, but could there have been maybe a subconscious desire for recognition from your boss?
It's often incredibly difficult to fully disentangle these motives, even within ourselves. The most important thing is recognizing that these hidden forces exist and that they wield immense influence over our actions.
The book uses a compelling example from the animal kingdom, primate grooming. On the surface, it appears to be all about hygiene, right? But a closer look reveals a complex social hierarchy at play.
Right, and primates engage in this fierce competition to groom higher-ranking individuals, going far beyond what's necessary for mere cleanliness.
So it's not just about hygiene then, is it? It's a way of gaining favor, securing a higher position within the group.
Precisely. It's a prime illustration of how actions can have a superficial meaning while simultaneously harboring a concealed motive. In this case, grooming goes beyond hygiene, becoming a subtle form of social currency, a way to gain status and favor within the group.
So how does this primate behavior translate to the complexities of human interactions? I mean, do we groom each other in similar ways?
Think about it, the compliments we give, the favors we extend, even the information we share, all of these actions, while seemingly innocuous, can often stem from a deeper desire to curry favor or elevate our social standing.
So we're all striving for a better position in some sort of abstract social pecking order.
Indeed. This leads us to the idea of competitive signaling, which is beautifully illustrated through the analogy of redwood trees.
Ah, yes, those majestic giants of the forest. What do they have to do with human behavior?
Well, think about how redwoods compete for sunlight. Their immense height is a signal of their success. The taller they grow, the more sunlight they capture, effectively outcompeting their rivals.
I'm starting to see the parallel. Humans may not compete for sunlight, but we certainly vie for other valuable resources, things like attention, status, possessions, even potential partners.
Precisely. Just as redwoods declare their dominance through their towering stature, we engage in all sorts of signaling behaviors to advertise our desirable attributes and, well, outshine those around us.
So everything from the way we dress to the causes we champion,
Yeah.
even our manner of speaking, it's all part of this elaborate signaling process.
It's a powerful lens through which to understand human behavior. Consider why people buy luxury cars, donate to high-profile charities, or spend years pursuing advanced degrees. While genuine motivations can underpin these actions, there's often a component of signaling woven in a desire to showcase affluence, intellect, or generosity, whether consciously or not, to make an impression on others.
That resonates, especially given the immense emphasis our society places on outward appearances and achievements. But why are we often oblivious to these motives driving our actions? This brings us back to the intriguing concept of self-deception, doesn't it?
This is where things get really interesting. The authors introduce the notion of counterfeit reasons. The justifications we give for our actions often conceal our true motives. Imagine it's like having an internal press secretary, constantly spinning information to present the most favorable version of ourselves.
Are you saying we're all master manipulators, even to ourselves? Because that's kind of a mind-blowing idea.
In a manner of speaking, yes. And there's fascinating evidence to support this notion gleaned from split brain experiments. In split brain patients, the connection between the two hemispheres of the brain is severed, and researchers made a remarkable observation. When one hemisphere initiates an action, the other hemisphere, lacking access to the true motive, will concoct a plausible but often totally fabricated explanation for the behavior.
Wow, so our brains are essentially making up stories to maintain this facade. That's incredible.
Precisely. And this press secretary module is remarkably adept at its job, which explains why introspection can sometimes be so unreliable. We may sincerely believe we're acting out of pure altruism when, in reality, hidden agendas are at play, even if we're completely unaware of them.
This is making me rethink every interaction I've ever had. But how do we get past this press secretary and uncover those hidden motives?
That's the million-dollar question. The authors suggest we need to become more attuned to the subtle cues, both within ourselves and in others, that betray those underlying drivers. And that leads us to another fascinating layer of this hidden world, the realm of body language.
Body language, that unspoken language of posture, gestures, and facial expressions. It's always fascinated me, but I've never really considered it through the lens of hidden motives.
It's an incredibly rich source of information, often conveying messages we're not even consciously aware of sending. Think about how you carry yourself in a meeting with your boss versus a casual gathering with friends, for instance.
Oh, absolutely. There's a definite difference. I'm more relaxed and playful with friends, while with my boss, I'm more formal and attentive.
Exactly. And those subtle variations in your body language speak volumes about the underlying social dynamics, even if you're not consciously orchestrating them.
So we're constantly giving away information about our true feelings and intentions, whether we realize it or not.
It's inevitable. The more attuned you become to these subtle cues, the more adept you'll be at navigating social situations and understanding the hidden forces driving your own behavior and the actions of those around you.
This is all very insightful, but what about something like conversation? I mean, if so much of our communication is nonverbal and often unconscious, how does that play out in something as straightforward as a conversation?
That's where things get even more intriguing. What if, instead of viewing conversation as simply an exchange of information, we see it through the lens of, say, showmanship?
Conversation as a performance. Now, that's a new way of looking at it. It's
Yeah.
like each of us is vying for the spotlight in some way.
Exactly. We try to be relevant, witty, insightful, all in an effort to impress our listeners. It's as though every utterance is a carefully crafted act, a subtle bid for social approval.
So the goal isn't just to convey information, it's to showcase our intellect, our humor, our social savvy.
Precisely. And this explains why conversations tend to stay on topic relevance. Signals an ability to process information, to make connections, to contribute meaningfully to the discussion. It elevates our social standing, making us more desirable conversation partners.
So it's like we're all constantly auditioning for the role of most engaging and insightful person in any given setting.
And that circles right back to the concept of signaling. Through our words, our tone, our choice of topics, we send subtle cues about our social and intellectual prowess. It's a fascinating interplay of self-presentation and impression management.
I have to say, this entire conversation is making me much more self-conscious about every conversation I have from now on. But I do wonder how this concept of hidden motives manifests in something like art. I mean, isn't art appreciation all about beauty, creativity, and the pursuit of aesthetic pleasure?
That's the traditional view. But when we examine art through an evolutionary lens, a different perspective emerges. What if we see art in all its forms as a manifestation of fitness?
You mean like art as a way to signal our desirability? That's an interesting concept.
Consider this creating art, whether it's a masterful painting, a complex musical composition, or even a well-crafted piece of furniture requires a significant investment of time, skill, and resources.
Definitely. Accomplished artists dedicate years to honing their craft. It's not something just anyone can pick up and do.
And that's precisely what makes it such a potent signal. By creating and displaying art, we're essentially advertising our intelligence, creativity, and resourcefulness. It's a way to set ourselves apart, much like a peacock's vibrant plumage or a bowerbird's elaborate nest.
So when we appreciate art, we're not just responding to its beauty, we're subconsciously evaluating the artist's fitness. That adds a whole new dimension to the experience.
And what's even more fascinating is that our artistic preferences themselves evolve in response to these signaling pressures. We tend to find beauty in creations that are difficult to produce, things that require a high degree of skill, effort, or resources. That helps explain why a handcrafted artifact often holds more appeal than a mass-produced equivalent, even if the latter is technically more flawless.
So then, does that mean the value we place on certain artists or artistic genres is more than just about aesthetic merit? Is there an element of social signaling at play? Like, what if suddenly everyone decided finger painting was the pinnacle of artistic expression? Would we all jump on the bandwagon?
Now, that's an insightful question. It gets to the heart of how social pressures influence our preferences. We're constantly navigating this complex dance between individual taste and the desire for social validation.
So appreciating art is kind of like playing a game of social chess, where we're strategically maneuvering to signal our sophistication and align ourselves with specific groups or aesthetics.
You got it. And that seamlessly brings us to another realm where hidden motives play a major role: charitable giving.
Charitable giving, that seemingly altruistic act of donating to those less fortunate. But I have a feeling there's more to the story.
Oh, absolutely. While altruism certainly exists, our charitable impulses are often intertwined with social signaling as well.
Are you suggesting our generosity isn't always motivated by pure benevolence?
Not necessarily. Research indicates that we're more likely to give when our contributions are publicly acknowledged, when they support relatable causes, and importantly, when they enhance our social image.
Wait, so that warm, fuzzy feeling we get when we make a donation, it's not entirely about selfless compassion. It's partly about boosting our own social standing.
It's a complex mix of motivations, and this warm glow theory, as it's called, helps explain why we often favor causes that resonate emotionally, even if they're not the most effective way to address the underlying issue. For example, donating to a local animal shelter versus, say, a global poverty relief organization, both worthy causes, but the animal shelter elicits a more immediate emotional response, making us feel like we're making a more tangible difference.
So our emotions can actually skew our giving habits, even when those emotions lead us to less impactful forms of altruism.
It's a fascinating paradox. We're often compelled to act by our emotions, even when those emotions don't align with the most rational or effective course of action.
This is really prompting some soul searching about all those selfless acts I've done. What about education? I mean, isn't that primarily about acquiring knowledge and skills to prepare for the future?
That's the conventional wisdom, yes. But what if we were to consider education as a form of signaling and even domestication?
Signaling, okay, I get that our degrees and accomplishments say something about us, but domestication, you're not suggesting it's like training animals, are you?
In a way, yes. Think about the demands of the modern workplace: punctuality, obedience, the ability to perform tedious tasks for extended periods. Those aren't innate human traits. They're learned behaviors often instilled through the structure and rigor of the educational system.
You're saying school is preparing us for the monotony of the 9 to 5 grind. That's a bit depressing.
It's a somewhat cynical view, admittedly, but it does contain a kernel of truth. The educational system, with its emphasis on conformity, obedience, and standardized testing, molds us into the type of workforce that many modern businesses seek.
Well, that's food for thought. But if education is primarily about signaling and domestication, what about the actual knowledge we gain? Does that hold any intrinsic value?
Of course, knowledge has inherent value. The point is that the structure and function of the educational system often prioritize signaling and social control over nurturing a genuine love for learning.
It's a fascinating perspective. Makes you wonder what the true purpose of education really is.
Exactly. And perhaps recognizing these hidden motives can help us design educational systems that better serve both the needs of individuals and society as a whole.
This deep dive has given me so much to think about already, and we've only just scratched the surface. Where do we go from here?
Let's shift gears and explore another domain where hidden motives exert a powerful influence: the realm of medicine.
Medicine, the pursuit of health and well-being. But I suspect you're about to tell me there's more to our healthcare choices than meets the eye.
Absolutely. We often assume those choices are driven solely by a desire to improve our well-being. But the truth is much more complex. The need to demonstrate care and concern for ourselves and our loved ones often leads us to consume more medicine than is strictly necessary.
But isn't showing care a good thing? Isn't it natural to want the best for ourselves and those close to us, even if it means spending a bit more on healthcare?
Of course, expressing care is important. However, research has shown that increased medical spending doesn't always translate into better health outcomes. There's a point of diminishing returns when it comes to medical interventions.
Wait, you're saying we could be allocating more resources to healthcare without actually experiencing commensurate health benefits?
It's a counterintuitive finding, but the data backs it up. There's a point where additional medical interventions simply don't yield significant improvements in health.
So all those expensive tests and treatments might not be giving us much bang for our buck.
It's a complex issue, to be sure, and there are undoubtedly cases where aggressive medical intervention is absolutely necessary. But the point is, our healthcare choices are often influenced by factors that go beyond purely medical necessity. We're susceptible to social pressures, the desire to project an image of proactivity, even a degree of fear-mongering perpetuated by the media and the pharmaceutical industry.
It's not just about treating the ailment, then. It's about signaling our concern, navigating this web of social expectations and anxieties.
Precisely. And questioning the efficacy of modern medicine, despite its undeniable advancements, is often met with resistance, even a sense of taboo.
Like, we're afraid to admit that the emperor might be wearing no clothes. I'm beginning to see how this conspicuous caring can distort our perceptions and lead us to make choices that aren't always in our best interest.
Exactly. And that underscores the importance of cultivating a deeper awareness of these hidden motives so we can make more informed, more empowered decisions about our healthcare. It's about questioning assumptions, weighing the risks and benefits of various treatments, and engaging in open, honest conversations with our healthcare providers.
I'm definitely feeling empowered to challenge those assumptions and take a more proactive approach to my own healthcare. What other fascinating areas of human behavior can we explore through this lens of hidden motives?
Well, let's turn our attention now to a domain that's captivated and perplexed humankind for centuries: religion.
Religion, the realm of faith, ritual, and the pursuit of spiritual meaning. I have a feeling, though, that there's more to this story than initially meets the eye.
Oh, absolutely. The enduring mystery of religion is trying to understand why people engage in costly, seemingly irrational behaviors in the name of their faith.
You mean things like elaborate rituals, sacrifices, acts of devotion?
Precisely. From an evolutionary standpoint, those behaviors can seem quite perplexing. But what if we were to reframe religion as a powerful mechanism for forging strong, cooperative communities?
Religion as a sort of social adhesive.
Exactly. Religion provides a framework for social bonding, promoting trust, upholding group norms, and instilling a sense of belonging. It creates this powerful incentive for cooperation, even when those cooperative behaviors might not serve an individual's immediate self-interest.
So those rituals and sacrifices, while seemingly burdensome, actually serve a deeper purpose, strengthening the bonds within the community.
Precisely. And those acts of devotion, however strange they might seem to outsiders, function as signals of commitment to the group. They're about demonstrating loyalty, earning trust, and securing a place within the social fabric of the community.
This is making me rethink my whole understanding of religion. It's not simply about spiritual beliefs. It's about the social benefits that come with belonging to a tight-knit group.
And that social cohesion, fostered by shared rituals and beliefs, has been vital for human survival throughout history. It's enabled us to cooperate on a larger scale, overcome challenges, build thriving civilizations.
That's incredibly insightful. But how does this idea of religion as a community-building tool explain more extreme religious behaviors, things like celibacy or martyrdom? Those seem to go directly against an individual's self-preservation instincts.
Ah, those are fascinating examples. And they highlight how the desire for social belonging can sometimes override even our most fundamental biological drives.
So, in essence, people are willing to sacrifice their well-being, even their lives, for the good of the group.
It speaks to the incredible power of social incentives. When group membership is perceived as crucial for survival, for physical and emotional security, even spiritual salvation, individuals can be motivated to extraordinary lengths to maintain their standing within that community.
This is all so incredibly eye-opening. It really highlights the profound influence these hidden forces have on so many aspects of human behavior.
And it begs the question, how can we leverage this understanding to create a better world? A world where these hidden motives work for us, not against us.
Now, that's a question I'm eager to explore further. But for now, let's take a quick break. We'll be back soon to delve even deeper into the fascinating world of hidden motives. Welcome back, everyone. I'm still reeling from all those mind-blowing insights about hidden motives we uncovered in the first part of our deep dive.
And believe me, we've only just scratched the surface. There's so much more to uncover.
Well, I'm ready to dive back in. Where do we go from here?
Let's pick up where we left off, exploring the fascinating world of religion.
Religion, that realm of faith, ritual, and the pursuit of spiritual meaning. But, I've got a sneaking suspicion there's more to it than meets the eye.
You're absolutely right. One of the most enduring puzzles about religion is understanding why people engage in those costly, seemingly irrational behaviors in the name of their faith.
Things like elaborate rituals, sacrifices, acts of devotion, those sorts of things.
Precisely. From a purely evolutionary perspective, those behaviors can be quite perplexing. But if we shift our perspective a bit and view religion as a powerful mechanism for creating strong, cooperative communities, it starts to make more sense.
So you're saying religion acts as a sort of social adhesive.
Exactly. It provides a framework for social bonding, encouraging trust, upholding group norms, and instilling a profound sense of belonging. It creates a strong incentive for cooperation, even in situations where those cooperative behaviors might not directly benefit an individual's immediate self-interest.
So those rituals and sacrifices, while seemingly burdensome on the surface, actually serve a deeper purpose to strengthen the bonds within the community.
You've got it. And those acts of devotion, no matter how strange they might appear to outsiders, function as powerful signals of commitment to the group. They're a way of demonstrating loyalty, earning trust, and securing a place within the social fabric of the community.
This is really changing my whole understanding of religion. It's not just about spiritual beliefs. It's about the tangible social benefits that come from being a part of a tight-knit group.
Precisely. And that social cohesion, nurtured by shared rituals and beliefs, has been absolutely crucial for human survival throughout our history. Think about it. It's allowed us to cooperate on a grander scale, overcome incredible challenges, and ultimately build thriving civilizations.
That's incredible. It really puts things into perspective. But how does this idea of religion as a community building tool explain those more extreme religious behaviors like celibacy or martyrdom? Those seem to go directly against an individual's self-preservation instincts.
Those are indeed fascinating outliers, and they really highlight how the yearning for social belonging can sometimes override even our most fundamental biological drives.
So you're seeing people are actually willing to sacrifice their own well-being, even their lives, for the sake of the group.
It speaks to the sheer power of social incentives. When group membership is perceived as absolutely essential for survival, for physical and emotional security, even for spiritual salvation, individuals can be driven to extraordinary lengths to maintain their standing within that community.
This entire deep dive is so eye-opening. It really makes you appreciate the profound influence these hidden forces exert on so many facets of human behavior. Now, you mentioned earlier this idea of religion as a social adhesive. Does this concept apply to other aspects of human behavior as well?
Absolutely. These dynamics of social signaling and in-group loyalty play out in many different areas of our lives. Take politics, for example.
Politics now, that's a realm that always seems to be rife with hidden agendas and strong emotions.
You're not wrong, and it's a domain where the stakes can feel incredibly high. We often assume people engage in politics because they want to improve society, right? But what if we view it through the lens of loyalty signaling instead?
Politics, as a way to signal allegiance to our group, are you suggesting that our political beliefs aren't always about genuine convictions or a desire for change?
Not necessarily. While genuine beliefs certainly play a role, political affiliations often function as badges of identity, signaling our allegiance to a particular tribe, whether it's a political party, a social movement, or even a specific ideology.
So all those heated political debates, those impassioned social media pronouncements, maybe they're not always about rational discourse or a genuine desire for positive change. Maybe they're about signaling where we stand, who we align ourselves with.
It's a powerful motivator, and it helps explain why voters are often remarkably uninformed about the complexities of policies or the nuances of candidates' positions.
So instead of focusing on understanding the issues, it's about demonstrating loyalty to our chosen team.
Precisely. And this loyalty-driven approach to politics, while understandable, can lead to some unintended and potentially problematic consequences.
I can imagine, like what sort of
Wow.
problems can arise from this type of political behavior?
Well, for starters, it can contribute to increased political polarization, making compromise and cooperation extremely difficult. When we view political disagreements as personal attacks on our identity or our group affiliation, we're far less likely to engage in thoughtful, productive dialogue or to try to find common ground.
It's like the objective is no longer to find the best solution, but to score points for your team, even if it means deepening the divides.
Unfortunately, that's often the case. And this tribalistic approach to politics can also fuel the spread of misinformation. We tend to readily accept information that confirms our pre-existing beliefs and vehemently reject anything that challenges our group identity, regardless of its factual accuracy.
So truth and accuracy take a backseat to loyalty and tribal affiliation.
It's a troubling trend, but it aligns perfectly with this notion of politics as loyalty signaling. It underscores the importance of cultivating a more nuanced and informed approach to political discourse, one that prioritizes critical thinking and a genuine search for truth over blind allegiance to a particular ideology or group.
This entire deep dive has been incredibly eye-opening. It's prompted me to rethink so many aspects of human behavior, from seemingly selfless acts of kindness to our most passionate political stances. Now that we've explored these hidden motives, though, the question is, how do we actually use this newfound knowledge? How can we apply it to improve our lives, our communities, and even the world around us?
That's the crucial question, and it brings us to a final vital point: the concept of designing for hidden motives.
Designing for hidden motives. What do you mean by that?
It means taking those often unconscious drivers of human behavior into account when we create institutions, develop policies, or even just interact with others on a day-to-day basis. If we want to create systems that truly work, systems that align with human nature, we simply can't ignore these hidden forces.
Okay, that makes sense. But how do we actually do that? How do we design for a species that's constantly trying to conceal its true motives, even from itself?
It's undoubtedly a complex challenge, but the first step is simply acknowledging that these hidden motives exist. We have to recognize that people don't always act out of pure logic or altruism. We need to understand those underlying desires, anxieties that drive behavior, and then we can start creating systems that tap into those motivations.
So it's kind of like understanding the game people are playing, and then creating rules that incentivize cooperation and lead to more positive outcomes.
Precisely. It's about aligning both surface goals and those deeper hidden goals, recognizing that people are often motivated by a complex mix of altruism, self-interest, and of course that powerful desire for social validation.
I can see how this insight could be applied to all sorts of things. Designing more effective charitable campaigns, creating workplaces that foster both productivity and a sense of belonging, even improving the way we communicate with our loved ones.
Absolutely, and it really highlights the importance of considering the ethical implications. While incredibly effective, appealing to hidden motives can also be quite manipulative if not done thoughtfully.
It's like we're wielding a powerful tool for understanding and influencing behavior, but we need to use it responsibly and ethically.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Ultimately, it's about creating systems that nudge people towards positive choices without resorting to coercion or deception.
This entire conversation has been so thought-provoking. It's really shifted my perspective on so many things.
That's what's so exciting about exploring these hidden motives. They can be a bit unsettling at first, but they ultimately provide a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us.
Speaking of deeper understanding, where do we go from here? What other areas of human behavior are ripe for exploration through this lens of hidden motives?
Well, let's shift our focus from grand societal systems back to those more individual behaviors. Specifically, let's dive into the fascinating, often perplexing realm of art appreciation.
Art. The world of beauty, creativity, and self-expression. Sounds interesting, but I have a feeling you're about to tell me there's more to it than meets the eye.
You know me too well. While we often think of art appreciation as a purely aesthetic experience, when we take a closer look, we find it's deeply intertwined with social signaling.
Art as a way to signal our social standing. That's an intriguing concept. So it's not just about appreciating beauty. There's a social element at play here.
Think about it: creating and consuming art, particularly art that's considered highbrow or difficult to appreciate, requires a certain level of knowledge, skill, even financial resources.
So you're saying it's not simply about enjoying a beautiful painting or a moving piece of music. It's about demonstrating our sophistication, our refinement.
Exactly. This signaling dynamic helps explain why certain art forms or specific artists attain a level of prestige that seems to go beyond their purely aesthetic qualities.
It's like the social value we attach to art becomes this sort of currency that we can use to elevate our own social standing.
And that currency can be incredibly valuable. It can grant us access to certain social circles, confer status, even influence our mating prospects.
So appreciating art becomes a bit like playing a social game, where we're strategically maneuvering to align ourselves with certain groups or aesthetics.
Precisely. It's this fascinating dance of self-presentation and impression management. And it really highlights the complex interplay between individual taste and that deep-seated human desire for social validation.
This is making me rethink every museum visit, every concert I've ever attended. But if art appreciation is so intertwined with this social signaling, does that mean our aesthetic judgments are entirely subjective?
That's a fantastic question, and it gets at the heart of a long-standing debate in aesthetics. While personal preferences certainly play a role, our judgments about art are also shaped by cultural norms, historical context, and even, believe it or not, evolutionary factors.
So it's not as simple as I like what I like. There are these deeper forces shaping our perceptions of art.
Absolutely. And those forces can be surprisingly powerful, influencing not just what we find beautiful, but also what we consider valuable or even worthy of our attention.
Wow, this is really making me question everything I thought I knew about art. I'm eager to learn more about these deeper forces at play. How do these hidden motives actually manifest in our aesthetic judgments?
Well, one key factor is something called the fitness display theory.
Fitness display, is that like a
Yes.
peacock showing off its tail feathers?
Exactly. The idea is that art, in all its various forms, serves as a signal of the creator's fitness. Whether it's a virtuoso musician, a masterful painter, or even a skilled craftsperson, the ability to create art that's beautiful, complex, or technically demanding signals a certain level of intelligence, creativity, and resourcefulness.
So when we're admiring a work of art, we're not simply responding to its beauty, we're subconsciously evaluating the creator's potential as a mate, or perhaps a collaborator.
It's a fascinating theory, and it helps explain why we're so often drawn to art that's difficult to create, art that requires a high level of skill and dedication. It's a way of assessing the creator's genetic fitness, their problem-solving abilities, even their access to resources.
That makes a lot of sense, especially when you consider the historical context. I mean, back in the day, creating art often required a huge investment of time, effort, and resources. It makes sense that we'd have evolved to appreciate those qualities as indicators of a potential partner's desirability.
And it's not just about the act of creation itself. The materials used, the intricacy of the design, even the subject matter, all of these things can convey subtle signals about the creator's status and social standing.
So a painting made with rare pigments or a sculpture carved from precious stone would signal a higher status than a simple charcoal sketch or a clay figure.
Precisely. And these signals would have been especially important in those societies where social hierarchy and status were highly valued.
This is adding a whole new level of complexity to my understanding of art appreciation. But I do have to wonder, are these signaling dynamics still relevant in modern society? I mean, art is much more accessible these days, and technology has made it easier to create high-quality reproductions. So are we still subconsciously evaluating artists based on their fitness and social status?
That's a great question. And it speaks to the dynamic nature of aesthetic judgments. As technology advances and cultural norms evolve, the signals we send and receive through art also change.
So you're saying the way we signal our status and sophistication through art is constantly in flux?
Exactly, it's always evolving. And this helps to explain why certain art forms or movements that were once considered avant-garde or even shocking can eventually become mainstream or even passé.
It's like the value we place on art is a moving target, constantly being shaped by those broader social trends and technological innovations.
You've got it. And that's what makes studying art history so fascinating. It's not just about appreciating individual works of art in isolation. It's about understanding those broader cultural and social forces that shape our perceptions of beauty, value, and even meaning in art.
This entire deep dive is making me realize just how much our judgments about art are influenced by factors we're often not even aware of.
And that awareness can be incredibly empowering. It allows us to appreciate art on multiple levels, not just for its aesthetic qualities, but also for the social and cultural messages it conveys, for the stories it tells, and for the insights it offers into the human condition.
It's like we're deciphering a hidden language embedded within each artwork, understanding those subtle cues and signals that often go unnoticed.
Exactly. And that deeper level of understanding can truly enrich our experience of art, making it even more meaningful and captivating.
Well said. This exploration of art appreciation has been absolutely eye-opening. It's given me a whole new perspective on the subject. But before we wrap up our deep dive into hidden motives, I think it's worth pausing to consider the broader implications of what we've discussed today. I mean, if so much of our behavior, from the art we appreciate to the way we engage in politics, is driven by these subconscious desires for status, belonging, and validation, is there any room left for genuine altruism or authentic self-expression?
That's a profound question. It's one that philosophers and scientists have been grappling with for centuries. And honestly, there's no simple answer. But I believe a key takeaway from our exploration is this: awareness is power. By understanding those hidden forces shaping our behavior, We can start making more conscious, more intentional choices. We can challenge those societal pressures, question those ingrained assumptions, and ultimately strive for a more authentic, more fulfilling life.
I love that. It's a message of hope and empowerment. And on that note, I think it's time to shift gears and move on to our 10-point summary of this deep dive.
Yeah.
Are you ready to synthesize all this incredible information into some key takeaways for our listeners?
Absolutely. Let's recap the key insights we've uncovered during our exploration of hidden motives.
Perfect. I'm ready to solidify these concepts in my mind.
Right. Point number one. Humans are inherently wired to act in their own self-interest while simultaneously attempting to conceal those selfish intentions.
It's like we're constantly playing a game of hide and seek, not just with others, but with ourselves.
Number two. We engage in all sorts of signaling behaviors, just like those redwoods competing for sunlight, to advertise our desirable qualities and outshine those around us.
Our clothes, the causes we support, the way we talk, it's all about sending subtle messages about our status and worth.
Number three, the explanations we give for our actions, those counterfeit reasons, often mask our true motives. It's as if we have an internal press secretary constantly working to present the best possible version of ourselves.
Introspection can be deceiving. We might sincerely believe we're acting out of pure altruism when hidden agendas are actually at play.
Number four, body language and laughter. Those nonverbal forms of communication often reveal more about our true feelings and intentions than our words ever could.
It's amazing how much we communicate without even realizing it.
Number five, conversations aren't just about exchanging information, they're also performances where we're all vying to impress each other with our knowledge, our wit, and our social savvy.
It's like we're all competing for the role of the most interesting person in the room.
Number six, art and charitable giving aren't solely about beauty or altruism. They often function as signals of intelligence, creativity, and generosity, subtly enhancing our social standing.
It's fascinating how our seemingly selfless acts can be intertwined with the desire for social recognition.
Number seven, education often acts as a credentialing system, demonstrating our ability to learn, to conform to societal expectations, and to ultimately meet the demands of the modern workplace.
It's not just about the knowledge itself, it's about the signal that our degrees and achievements send to others.
Number eight, we may consume more healthcare than necessary, driven by that innate desire to display care and concern for ourselves and our loved ones.
It's that conspicuous caring we discussed earlier. And sometimes it leads us to overspend on healthcare without actually achieving better outcomes.
Number nine, religion serves a vital social function, fostering trust, cooperation, and community building through those shared rituals and beliefs.
It's amazing how religion can bring people together and create such a powerful sense of belonging.
And finally, number 10, political beliefs can often function as loyalty signals, demonstrating our allegiance to specific groups rather than reflecting deeply held convictions.
It's really eye-opening to consider how our political affiliations can shape our perceptions of behaviors, even when we're not fully aware of those influences.
So there you have it, 10 key insights into the fascinating world of hidden motives. It's a complex landscape, to be sure, but understanding these underlying forces can help us navigate it with greater awareness and intention.
This has been an incredible journey. It's challenged me to question my assumptions, reevaluate my motivations, and truly consider the impact of my actions, both on an individual and societal level.
And that's precisely the power of exploring these hidden motives. It pushes us to become more conscious, more intentional, and ultimately more compassionate individuals.
Beautifully said. And on that note, we'll conclude this part of our deep dive. Stay tuned for the final part of our episode, where we'll continue to uncover those hidden forces that shape our thoughts, our feelings, and ultimately our actions. You know, as we wrap up this deep dive into hidden motives, one thing that really sticks with me is how pervasive these unconscious influences seem to be. It makes you wonder, does even something as personal as our health fall prey to these subtle, hidden agendas?
It's a fascinating question. It challenges our assumptions about how we make healthcare decisions. We tend to think we're guided solely by a desire to improve our well-being, but often there's more to the story. That need to show we care for both ourselves and our loved ones can sometimes lead us to consume more healthcare than is strictly necessary.
But showing care is a good thing, right? I mean, it's natural to want the best for ourselves and our families, even if it means spending a bit more on healthcare. So where's the harm in that?
While expressing care is definitely important, there's a growing body of research suggesting that simply spending more on healthcare doesn't always translate into improved health outcomes. There seems to be a point of diminishing returns when it comes to medical interventions.
So are you saying that all those expensive tests and treatments, all those cutting-edge procedures, might not actually be doing us much good.
It's a complex issue, and there are certainly situations where those interventions are absolutely critical. However, the key takeaway here is that our healthcare choices are often influenced by factors that go beyond purely medical considerations. Social pressures, the desire to appear proactive, even a degree of fear-mongering perpetuated by the media and the pharmaceutical industry, all of these things can play a role in our decision-making.
It's a bit unsettling, isn't it? It's like we're not always in the driver's seat when it comes to our own health. We're swayed by this complex interplay of emotions, social expectations, and maybe even unconscious biases.
Exactly. And to make things even more complicated, questioning the value of modern medicine, despite all the remarkable advancements it's brought about, is often met with resistance, even a sense of taboo.
It's as if we're afraid to admit that maybe, just maybe, the emperor isn't wearing any clothes. It's fascinating, though, how this idea of conspicuous caring, as you called it earlier, can distort our perceptions and lead us to make decisions that aren't always in our best interests.
Absolutely. And that's why it's so important to cultivate a greater awareness of these hidden motives. The more we understand these subtle influences, the better equipped we'll be to make informed, empowered decisions about our healthcare. It's about questioning assumptions, carefully weighing the risks and benefits of different treatment options, and most importantly, engaging in open, honest conversations with our healthcare providers.
Well, this has certainly given me a lot to think about. It seems like uncovering these hidden motives isn't just about understanding the world around us, it's also about understanding ourselves.
You've hit the nail on the head. The more we understand about those hidden forces that shape our behavior, the more we can align our actions with our values and make choices that truly serve our well-being.
Well said. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up our deep dive into the fascinating and sometimes perplexing world of hidden motives. We've explored how those unconscious desires shape everything from our casual conversations to our deeply held beliefs about art, religion, and even our own health. It's been a truly thought-provoking journey, one that's challenged me to question my assumptions, reevaluate my motivations, and consider the impact of my actions on both an individual and societal level.
I couldn't agree more. And as we conclude this exploration, it's important to remember that recognizing these hidden motives doesn't invalidate our achievements or relationships. In fact, it can do just the opposite. By understanding the complexities of human nature, we can approach ourselves and others with greater empathy, compassion, and wisdom.
What a fantastic point. And I think that's a perfect note to end on. A huge thank you to you for guiding us through this fascinating exploration. It's been a true pleasure.
The pleasure was all mine. Thank you for having me.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this journey of discovery. We hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity, inspired you to think differently about human behavior, and perhaps even empowered you to make more conscious, intentional choices in your own lives. Until next time, keep questioning, keep learning, and keep diving deep.